Right, good morning everyone, welcome back to the channel, welcome back to another video. Today is another day working on the Vectra. As you would have seen in the previous video, I managed to get the gearbox in the Vectra bolted up and in position. And now that that's in there, the next thing to do is to get the subframe back in. It's going to be a little trickier today because, as you can see, I'm on my own once again. So maneuvering the subframe up to the car is going to be a little tricky. It's quite heavy. It's a little awkward and tricky to handle on your own, but I will get that done. Before I do that though, I just want to quickly show you, at the beginning of this whole process, I showed you that the passenger side drive shaft, not axle, it's a drive shaft, I showed you that it had a knocking noise. The inner joint on the drive shaft was had some play in it, and you could sort of rotate it this way and it would make a little knocking noise. I went ahead and sourced a new second-hand unit, which is this one here with a little tag on it. I'll just lay them side by side just to compare that they're the same, and they are. But I just want to show you the noise. This is the old one. I want to show you the noise this one makes compared to what it should sound like. Alright, so if I grab this one, I already showed you this before, but I'll show you again. If I twist, you can hear, if I put it up to the microphone, that knock. It's a pretty awful noise. And then if I grab this one and do the same thing, that's me doing exactly the same movement. There is nothing there, silent. So that is going to fix our issue that we were having with the knocking noise. Some people were saying that this drive shaft was actually the problem for the whirring noise as well, but it's not. The gearbox was definitely the issue, but this was the issue for the knocking noise, so I'm solving both of those problems by doing this. I picked this used one up off eBay. I think it was £25, and that was delivered as well to my house, so well worth changing. Right, so with that out of the way, let's get this subframe back into the Vectra. I think I'm going to jack it up a bit, put it on some bricks or mount it on something, jack up a little bit more, and just try and get it in position so that I can get those 4 long bolts that bolt it to the car in. That's the game plan, because I've got about a foot between the floor and where it needs to be, so I need to be able to get it up and in position so that I can actually get the bolts in. Let's give it a go. Right, so as you can see, this is the subframe. This is what me and Tom pulled out. These right here are the 4 mounting spots. There's one here, one the other side, and then we've got 2 at the back. One there, one there. These are what I need to get up to the car to be able to get the bolts in. Now, as you can probably see, the power steering pump is not going to clear the bumper. To get this out, we sort of had to come through the wheel well and sort of push it or pull it out from over the wheel well, so that would clear. So I'm going to have to do the same again. I'm waiting on tie rods as well, because this one we had to cut. As you can see, I had to cut the bolt off this one because it wouldn't come out. So I'm going to change both tie rods when they come. They should be here today, I think. I'm not entirely sure, but once they come, I'll change them. Yeah, that's kind of it. I'm just going to have to move this in position and get it to go up to the car however I can. Like I said, I'm probably going to stack bricks underneath it just to keep it there, and I can get the bolts in. And then once the bolts will start to thread, I'm in a good position there. Right, so I've got it pretty much in position. As you can see, that's about where it's going to sit. I need to center it a little bit more, but that's roughly where it's going to go. Now, there's a couple of bars here, like extra strut brace things. Let me see that. These things here, which I'm going to have to take off, because that's the bolt hole right there. And as you can see, it needs to go up, and this is in the way. So there's one bolt that holds these things on, just there. So I'm going to go ahead and take them off. Just so they're out of the way, and I'll put them back on afterwards, because otherwise they're going to get in my way. I can see it. Just undoing that bolt has been enough so that I can sort of swing this out of the way, you see? So I can just move that. That's handy. I'll do the same on the other side. So I've been at this for about 15 minutes and I already regret not having someone here helping me do this. This subframe job, again, it's a two-person job really to make this any easier. I have managed to get the front 2 bolts in, I'll show you that in a second, but it has been a right pig. I've sort of been using bricks to get it higher and higher as I go. You can see them under there. I've been stacking bricks up, sort of lifting it up one side, putting another brick in, lifting up the other side, sticking another brick in, and just doing that. And I've got the jack on the front right there. I managed to get 1 bolt in right there. I've just sort of done it up a little, and same the other side. So the front 2 are in, so I'm going to move the jack to the back now, jack the rear up, and then get the 2 rear bolts in. Right, there we go. Subframe, if you can see it, is fully bolted up. Nothing supporting it now apart from itself. All 4 bolts are in and tight. I'm very happy about that. I did have to remove this rear gearbox mount to get it up, just because aligning this was an absolute pig. Getting this part of the mount inside this. Just took that off, but I've just gone ahead and put it back on. So, happy with that. Happy the subframe's back on. I've got these 2 gearbox bolts, one's for this mount right here and one's for that rear one right here, so I'm going to stick them in, and then I'm going to work on just figuring out the wiring, put the wiring back on the power steering pump and stuff like that, and then just assembling all the other stuff. The exhaust's got to get back on. I think that's just kind of a case of putting everything back together now, so I'm just going to do like a montage type thing and show you how everything goes. Right, okay, so I think it's about time I did another update. I can't even remember the last thing that I said on film, so I'm just going to go ahead and show you exactly what I've done in this video so far. As you know, the subframe went back up, 4 bolts in. From then on, it's just been a case of tidying up all the other bits that need to be put back together, plugging in any electrical plugs, putting any bolts in that need to go in, and also buttoning up the suspension. I can't fully do the suspension because I'm waiting on the tie rod ends to arrive. Alright, so I'll just give you a quick look underneath so you can see how things look. I really need a torch, don't I? There is the subframe bolted up. I've put both gearbox mounts in, this one and the one at the back just there. Try to do this one hand, there we go, that one's in as well. And pretty much under here everything's done up apart from the exhaust. That's still to go on, as you can see, that's the manifold. It's laying right down the end of the car, so I'll do that pretty much last. It's only 3 bolts and then just to clamp that end, so that's nice and easy. But under here, that's pretty much it. I had to do these radiator mounts as well. I took these out when we lowered the subframe. I don't think I needed to, but I did anyway. Suspension is all back together. I'll just quickly show you that. So I've done both sides, pretty much the same. Drop link is in, right there. 2 strap bolts are all tight, these 2 right here. The brake line is back where it's supposed to be. The hub nut is done up as tight as I can get it. And then the bottom ball joint as well is in, although the bolt is not in this side yet because I need to buy a new bolt because I had to break the other one to get it out. So I need to get a new bolt for this side. And then the tie rod end is the last thing needs to be done, but like I said, I'm waiting for the new ones to come before I can put them in, so that'll pretty much be the last job to go on, just these. But apart from that, suspension is all put back together. I'm very happy. I'll just show you the other side just in case you want to see both. Ta-da! All back together. It's nice to see this all coming together nicely. I am going to replace this side tie rod. I don't need to, this one's fine, but I probably will do it just because I'm getting both delivered, so may as well change both sides, right? Why not? Gearbox oil needs to go in. Drive shafts are in. That's the new one on this side. No more clonking, hopefully, with that in. I also need to get a new bracket for the exhaust for the centre section, because when Tom undid this one, it snapped off. I think the bolt was just too tight, so I need a new clamp as well. Right, so I've gone ahead and done myself the service of writing myself a list, because otherwise I'll forget things. These are all the things right here that are left to do on the Vectra. As you can see, only 5 things that I can think of, there might be more, that need to be done. Gearbox oil is very important, that's why it's the top of the list. I haven't got the oil yet, but I will get some, because we don't want to be running this gearbox without any oil. That would be silly. Number 2 is I need the bolt for the driver's side bottom arm. I showed you that. I need to get I don't know where I'm going to get one from, but I need to get one of them. Tie rod ends, once they arrive, they should be here tomorrow, so I'll look to do them tomorrow. Battery and tray needs to go back in. As you can see, I haven't put that in because I need that out to fill the oil up, so I'm not going to put that in yet. That'll be the last thing I do. And the plastic under tray, there's just a like a water shield that goes under the car, just under the engine. I need to just put that back in as well, and that's literally it. That's all I can think of that needs to be back on this thing, and then we'll be done and we can put the wheels on, bring it down the floor and give it a test drive. I'm excited to see if this has fixed it. I can't see why it wouldn't. With the new gearbox and the new drive shaft in there, we should be good to go. So not much left. That's all I can do for today though, because I haven't got any of those things to do right now. Once we're ready to tackle that list, I'll bring you guys back in and we shall continue. Right, good morning everybody, welcome back. It's been a couple of days since I last did some work on the Vectra. I ordered a couple of parts and was just waiting for them to come in, primarily the tie rod ends, because as you know I had to cut off the driver's side one to be able to get the subframe out, and so I obviously need to replace that side before I put it all back together. I've already started on the driver's side. It was an absolute nightmare, as you can imagine, to get the locking nut off on the inner tie rod. It was an absolute pain, but I'd managed to get it loose. I'm now just spinning the tie rod off. I'll put the new one on and then that can go back in the knuckle with the new nut. Apart from that, there's a few other things that I want to button up on the Vectra. I want to get the exhaust back on, even though I still need a clamp. Tom's going to grab them from the shop when he gets the gearbox oil, so I won't be able to put that on just yet, but the exhaust can go back on in its place. I want to put the plastic under tray back on, and I'm also going to double check all the bolts that I've touched just to make sure that everything's tight, because there's always a chance that you miss 1 or 2 bolts when tightening things up. So I'm just going to go over everything, double check all the bolts, make sure that they're all tight. The plan is for this video is just to finish off putting the last few bits on there, and then in the next video we'll take for a test drive. Alright, so this is the current situation. As you can see, I've got this set up so I've got a spanner holding the inner tie rod, and I'm just spinning the old one off. I'm having to use a spanner on it though because it's so tight, so I'm just undoing it like that. And once I've got this one off, I'll stick the new one on. Right, so it's just worth noting with these, just something I figured I'd show you. This is the old one right here, and as you can see, if you look at it from the top down, it's got sort of a curve to the right. Can you see that? The ball joint actually sort of curves round to the right like that. And also on these ones, there is actually an R to say that it's for the right, which is the driver's side. I've got both of these. Like I said, I've got the passenger side one, but if you can see this one doesn't have an R or an L on it. But you can see that this one has got that bend as well. So you just want to match them up. You can see this one, the other side, actually bends the opposite direction, bends that way instead of bending up. So you can get it wrong, so just make sure you do get the right one if you're doing this. Right, so I was just under here. I just did up the O2 sensor in the exhaust, just plugged that in. And I was looking at the bottom of the gearbox, and can you see this plate here? It's missing a damn bolt. Why is there not a bolt in there? And you can see the gearbox oil has been leaking out of there as well. It's all wet around there. Why has someone just taken one bolt out of there? Why are none of the others taken out? I'm gonna have to nick one out of the old gearbox and put that in there, and just check that all these are tight, because these might have been messed with a little bit. What a silly thing to do. I also noticed whilst I was under here that his radiator is a little leaky. Can you see that? Right there. Looks like it's been leaking for a while as well, because you can see the pink build up there. So that might be something he needs to address. I'm not entirely sure. Depends how bad that is. But I'm definitely going to have to nick a bolt out of the old one for that, because that's not good enough. Now, luckily on this gearbox, we've got plenty of bolts to choose from. Right, so as you can probably see, my list only contains 3 more things. Number 1 is the gearbox oil, which I've just had a text message from Tom saying that he's picked up gearbox oil and an exhaust clamp from Wilco. I assume I'll get them either tonight or tomorrow, so they'll be done ASAP. Other things on the list are the battery tray and the battery. That can't go in until, like I said, I filled the gearbox oil up, because I need to get in this area, so that's going to be pretty much the last thing to go on. It won't take long anyway. The only other thing apart from that is the lower arm on the driver's side. If you remember, I damaged the bolt when I was taking it out. My dad's actually managed to source me one. I'm seeing him tonight. He'll bring me that bolt, and then the wheels can actually go on. I've double checked all of the bolts, all in the suspension and everything is tight, so I haven't missed anything. I checked all the gearbox bolts and all them are tight as well. So we really are nearing the end of this process. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave this video here. I'm going to pick up on the next video, which will be the last and final one in this series, where I bleed the clutch, fill the gearbox oil up, put the wheels on, bring it to the ground, and we will be going for a test drive to make sure that the gearbox is fixed, and also the drive shaft on that side is not making any more noise. So if you've enjoyed the series so far, make sure you give it a thumbs up, make sure you subscribe for future content. This Vectra is very nearly ready to be back on the road. It's exciting time. I'm sure Tom's excited to get it back so that he can get this car sold on to its next owner. Join me in the next one when we get this Vectra on the road and driving once and for all. I'll see you guys in the next one.